Live special.
1950,
Defence.
Britain was spending nearly 8% of GDP on defence.
Increase
It's been on a
2.5.
downward trajectory ever since, in contrast to health spending, which has been going in the opposite direction. But when you look
GP,
at NATO
yeah,
partners,
GDP.
European NATO partners, it does put Britain in a
War
relatively strong
in
position.
Ukraine,
Still
UK
not as
25.
much as Poland, which has increased defence spending to more than 4%. Baltic countries going in the same direction, but more in terms of GDP than the other two big military powers in Europe, Germany and France. Now, what is this money going to be spent on? Well, that's been decided at the moment. There is a defence review going on, due to report in spring, but we kind of know the direction of travel, and that is...
Taxes will rise, I'm afraid to say.
Britain doesn't have enough long-range artillery systems, air defence systems, ammunition stockpiles. Those are the kinds of things that will be addressed. I do not think this is enough money to reverse the decades
It
of
should be about
cuts in the overall size
4%
of
at
the
least.
armed forces. But it does give Keir Starmer that bargaining chip with Donald Trump in the White House.
Indeed, James, practically, what does shifting this cash from the overseas aid budget mean for overseas aid?
Well, at the moment, the government spends about 0.5% of national income on aid. That's going to drop to 0.3%. It's actually much worse than that because a large chunk of aid spending is still spent on hotels for asylum seekers here in the UK. So experts say the actual amount of money being spent overseas on aid will be about 0.15%. Not surprisingly, the aid agencies are furious, saying this is going to be a huge betrayal of many, many people, millions sicker and poorer as a result. The decision breaches Labour's manifesto to protect the budget. It leaves its policy of using aid to engage with the global south in tatters. It arguably makes the world more dangerous because this aid was used to shore up failing states that generate terrorism and migration. But the government's chosen to target this because it is easier to target than budgets like welfare, health and education. In other words, angry aid agencies are politically easier to handle than angry Labour MPs.
All right, James Landale.
There you go, guys. Defence spending is on the increase. Not enough, though, in my opinion.
Last hour, Ukrainian officials have said a deal has been reached between Kyiv and Washington on the joint exploitation of Ukraine's mineral resources. Now, the country is rich in oil and gas, as well as raw materials, as this map shows. Full details haven't yet been made public of the deal, but an agreement could be signed later this week and have consequences for the war with Russia. Donald Trump says President Zelensky might travel to the White House this Friday. Well, in a moment, we'll speak to James Waterhouse live in Kyiv, but first to Gary O'Donoghue, who's in Washington. Gary, has Donald Trump got what he wanted then?
Well, we were told yesterday by the president that this deal was close, and that turned out to be true. It seems that the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. We don't know much about the detail. President Trump has said already that this could be worth, billions of dollars to the US, and an important part of his request. And he said just in the last few minutes, Clive, that he expected...
Both ones at the right side of the screen. Time's down there. It's February the 25th.
Certainly, it's okay with me if you'd like to.
Tuesday evening, guys,
He would like to
25.
sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around.
Well, that is the president of America. That is Donald Trump.
And
You trust him or don't trust him. I don't trust that bloke. I don't like him.
It could be $1 trillion deal.
Don't like that bloke. Boo to him.
Now, we don't know exactly what President Trump has given in terms of security guarantees, which are a key part of Ukraine's ask, and we don't know how much of a share of those resources going forward that the Americans will have either. And of course, none of this can happen until the fighting is finished.
All right,
There you go, guys.
Donahue live at the White House there.
Jesus Christ, Michelle Sign Age Evans.
mentioned there, one of the key stipulations for Kyiv was some kind of security guarantee as part of this deal. Do you have any idea if that's part of the agreement?
Ooh.
Clive, I'm afraid I can't add to Gary's report there. We don't know any more details here on just what security guarantees Ukraine has secured from this apparent agreement. Now, you're right, this is what Ukraine has wanted. It has wanted America to be interested in its vast natural mineral resources in exchange for security guarantees. So boots on the ground, ammunition, weaponry, financial support to prevent Russia from invading again after a ceasefire is signed, after Russia keeps hold of the fifth of Ukraine it has taken so far. We are told by sources here that the terms of this deal are much more favourable. So you'll remember that Donald Trump said he wants access to $500 billion worth of Ukrainian minerals, a figure that's been disputed in these parts. That has now been dropped. And we must remind ourselves of the hostile backdrop, where Donald Trump has accused President Zelensky of being responsible for Russia's invasion, falsely labeling him as a dictator. It's been incredibly hostile. And now we have this apparent area of agreement. And the hope here is this. If America has agreed to this deal, then it gives it a stake. And if it has interests to defend, then that might equate to military support to enable to Ukraine to exist after a ceasefire is signed.
Indeed. All right.
There you go.
James, good to see you.
Please
James
subscribe,
Newhouse,
channel, Simon
live
Jevons.
with you. Many thanks.
This is my friend Sparky and
More
Jimbo.
on This with Victoria.
Every
Good
Friday.
morning, Newsnight.
At 3 to 5 pm, ITF thing, Surrey Hills Way. Today's show for Friday. It's my friend Shane, Lobus and Lulu. Every Friday at 10 to 12 pm on Surrey Hills Way. Show every Friday. Live, listen to do every Friday. As my friend John, the last show every Sunday at 9 to 12 pm live on the Woken show. Yeah, on the Woken radio station, the last show. Every Sunday at 9 am to 12 pm. Please subscribe on Signage Evans.